All right, Miss Benitez. So we are going to do a professional development today. And I know I used you last time for a coaching session, so thank you very much. Going ahead and just working together just because we are on a team of two. So a lot of the ELAR just kind of falls on us because we are the only two reading and writing teachers for fourth grade. So we're going to kind of get right in and we're going to do a PD today for progress learning. And so the reason why I chose this was, so I went to training just to kind of see the differences between progress learning, and last year it was called Education Galaxy. And so there's a couple changes. Some of the features are still the same, but there have been some things that have been removed and things that have added. So you have your computer today. Go ahead and get to ClassLink.
Okay.
And while you're doing that, I've got my computer here. And so I'm just going to kind of navigate. And so you can peer over on my screen if need be.
Perfect.
So once you're in progress learning, you'll get up to your dashboard. And so you can see some of the features that are on the very top. It'll say my assignment. And so yours looks a little different than mine.
Yeah, you could move them around, and then unfortunately mine are fun. They're fun, but yeah.
So we have the same ones. They're just kind of out of order. So I have my assignments, assessments. You can see you can create assessments, instructional resources, assessment, and assignment builder. So today, before we start, I kind of want to just go over some of the features, and then we are going to look at some of the report and some of the data.
Okay.
So progress learning, I know we have been using it in our classroom, but the whole purpose of this PD is just to discuss how we're using it and how it's being implemented and how we can use it to drive instruction. So if you go to your class name, and I'll give you a moment to get there. Perfect. So you can select any one of your sections. So because I have 3 sections, they're in separate colors, and you should probably see the same.
I do.
On the right side, and if you wanted to monitor my screen, it says progress report, and it looks like a graph. So I just selected that.
Okay.
I'll give you a minute to do that. And then at the very top, and this works good being side by side. So at the very top, it'll say class, and there's a drop-down menu. And so what I did was I selected all of my sections. And then I actually can see yours on my end. You might be able to see mine.
I think so. I have some others.
Yeah, so you have my sections. And so if we wanted to run a report for all of fourth grade, we could. But we'll just kind of keep it. Perfect. And then so underneath, it should say start and end date. And selected should be current school year.
Got it.
And so we've been using progress learning in my classes for Pride Time, which is our intervention time. Have y'all been doing the same, or when do you feel that you most use it?
Usually when we have our technology day.
Okay.
Because we'll do like a quick mini quiz, like our little quizzes, like the 8-question quiz or whatever. And then when they're done with that, they get on to progress learning and they work on their study plan usually.
Okay. So are these assignments that you've already created? Are they district created, or what does that look like in your classroom?
A few. There are, like, currently the one that I've told them to focus on and to start on, and I can watch their progress on that.
Right.
Is the star review that there's 2. There's a star review the district has created, and then there's a star review that Progress Learning itself has actually provided. So I told them to pick one, focus on one, and I kind of put a date time frame on that, so it would kind of like, you can't work on that one after this date and things like that. But those are the 2 that we're moving forward with. I believe we have several questions.
Okay, awesome. So, and I'm kind of guilty of the same thing where I'm like, I give them the data and they're practicing, but it's the application of that. And so that is kind of the purpose of our PD today, is that we're going to take the work that they've done thus far, and we're going to kind of review it and see where we can drive instruction next, considering we've got 2 weeks until STAR. So once you're here, you'll see on the bottom right screen, on the bottom right corner, it says run report. Double check before you select that button that you've got your boxes checked for assessment and assignments, progress learning diagnostic, and study plan practice.
All of that, perfect.
Correct. And then you will hit run report. And it may take a few moments.
Got it.
So you'll scroll down and it'll say class dot rank or student dot. I kept with class dot rank.
I see that.
And so just by looking at it, you've got name, questions attempted, questions correct, overall score, and dot rank. So go ahead and take a look at the name column. It says using resources, using context, affixes, etc. What do you think those are? Those are what?
Those are our TEKS.
Yeah, those are our TEKS.
Standards, yeah.
Those are our standards, correct. And so, for example, like on my end, I see using resources. Out of 60 students, 60 attempts have been made. So it'll tell me the questions that my kiddos got correct and then their overall score. So let's just use, and I'm going to appear at yours. So you have using resources as your number one, and it says the standard for that is 4.3A. So out of 60 students that I have, I've got about a 62% average. So what does your data reflect?
Out of 84 questions answered or attempted, I have a 68% average.
Okay. So if you look,
I'm sorry.
No,
I did
you're correct.
Okay, I thought I switched them.
You're correct.
68%. Yes.
So if you scroll up just a little bit, it'll give you a key.
Yep.
So it'll say a gray dot is less than 2 questions answered.
Got it.
Pink is less than 65%. So this is where it breaks down for class.
Yeah.
Yellow is 65 to 80%. And then green is 80%.
Got it.
So hypothetically, if you were looking at this information and you were using resources, what would you infer about your data?
About my data, just looking at my
Just for
report.
resources. So it's a yellow dot on your
Just
screen.
for resources.
So how many kids? It tells you 68%.
68%. So 68%. With this particular percentage, I think I would focus on small group and ensuring that my high ones that are getting our resources are spread out into their mixed groups.
Right.
I don't feel like this would be a complete reteach at that point.
Correct. And I would agree because for me, anything that's nearing that 70% is really a small group reteach moment. And so what would that look like in your classroom if it's small group?
If it's small group, definitely find the ones, narrowed out the ones that, and I pretty much have that idea already, and use them as a small group in my pride time, pull them up, talk about where we're missing it, like what is causing this misconception, and see if I can't narrow down the specific, is it the, specific words or resources, like what exactly is it that's causing that hiccup right there.
Right. And what's great about the Pride Time, so that's like our campus-wide intervention, is it doesn't take away any instructional focus.
Correct.
So you don't have to take time during instructional minutes when we already have a pacing calendar and worry about using resources when we're maybe making inferences or other standards.
Correct.
And so if I'm looking at my data, my reflection is, while I'm not far off, I only have an average of about 62%. And so I would probably still maintain that small group intervention, but I might include that a little bit more in my tutoring as well as during our Pride Time. So I might double up just to get us closer to that mastery. And so I'll give you about a moment to look at your standards. And so what I love about it being color coded is it pops out.
Really
So we have yet to, in my class, we have not got to the questions on text organization. I can see that because of the color coding.
Yeah.
So I want to give you about a minute to look first. And you'll notice the writing standards are underneath.
Yeah.
So while you are looking, I want you to be mindful of which teak would you think that you would want to refocus on. So a red teak or standard, or here it says pink.
Okay.
I want you to find a yellow teak, and I want you to find a green. So I want us to at least end our PD session with a takeaway of, this is where my students are successful. This is where my students are approaching, and this is where I might want to guide some of my instruction. And so if you want a sticky note, you can totally grab a sticky note, but just a quick green, yellow, and pink. And I'm going to do the same thing during this time.
Sticky.
And what we'll do is later, so right now we're just kind of looking at the functionality of the data of progress learning. And so later, when we do a PLC, we can kind of discuss what that would look like. So right now, we're just going to address, hey, these are the standards that we're doing well. These are our next steps, areas of growth. and seeing what progress learning can actually do for us. And then during that PLC time, we'll say, okay, well, what would that look like in small group? What could we do? How could we monitor? How could we adjust? Right now, this is just like all of the features and benefits that we could take away.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to do a quick share out. So what's great about progress learning is it will take the amount of questions and the attempts and the students. And so it shows that data going across. It breaks it apart by standard. So for me, my quick takeaways, which I love this feature, is I can see that key ideas we're struggling with. So we're at about 46% mastery, which tells me that I probably need to do a whole group reteach because that's not nearly close enough to what I would like to have mastery. Where we're approaching is theme. We're sitting at about 75% mastery, which is great. So that'll look like small group instruction. Honestly, those could just be some misconceptions that I might be able to point out during whole group. And then when we have our PLC later this week, we'll talk about what that looks like. And then summarizing, oddly, we're at 100%. So that's great. And so for me, my takeaway is I'm not going to spend any more time on summarizing. I will absolutely focus on it when we have comprehension questions, but I will not kind of spend any extra class time. Okay. So what were your takeaways? What did you notice?
So I'm seeing that our language and purpose is a definite reteach. We're hitting low on that one. I believe that was a 52%, which is kind of close to poem, and we're kind of low on that one too, 54. So those might, I think we could bounce off each other because those are usually when that brings it in. It's poem, language, purpose. We're doing decent on plot development, and I actually just hit on this recently.
Good.
So I'm expecting we should see higher grades than that. That one was in the yellow. And we are doing really good at 89% on theme.
Awesome.
So that's pretty amazing for them.
Well, I may come to you then for theme. Because we're not far, but I may come to you and get some pointers for theme. So, and just kind of looking at this snapshot, I know it's some of the features are pretty similar. But what I found different from last year to this year when having this app change is that it really breaks apart your data even further than us just assigning this. So why might you think that you may use this instructional resource? Like, why might this be something that's helpful for you?
Well, like you said, it breaks it down, and it breaks it down per TEK as well. It's very easy to look at their data that we're getting from other ones and line up and go, okay, you need to work on this one. And it even says it on their study plan. I can be like, okay, you need to look for 4.10D. It should say language next to it.
Right.
And they can pull that up specifically. Just having that kind of specificity for it.
Yeah, the specificity. Absolutely.
Makes it so much easier to be like, this is where I'm low, it correlates with this is where I can work. And the quick little alien video reteach. I know that these students are like, I'm like, you need a lot. It's the
Watch
whole reason
it.
it's there. It's the
Right.
whole reason it's there. So I think that's really crucial too, is getting that minute by minute correction.
And it's individualized, which is great.
Yes.
So where your strong suits are, I might be struggling and vice versa. And so what I love about this is it tells you that, you know, Shelly is working on these standards, whereas Megan is working on something different. So it's really tailored instead of this just a one size fits all, which I think is great. So looking at your data, how do you think you are going to drive instruction further? What might that look like in the next couple of weeks as we're kind of gearing up for STAR?
Well, definitely that poem and language, since that's going to be a thing. And I'm really glad to see that my theme was higher. I kind of felt like maybe it was just an off day, but I kind of felt like, man, we're struggling with theme, but apparently not.
Right.
So that's all right. So now I can kind of put theme on a review back burner and
Right.
not put as much emphasis on it and pull back in for our, for sure, language.
It's a self-reflection piece. Like it allows you to see, because in the moment we're worried about what we need to improve on, when in reality it's evident just by looking at this data that our kids have reached some level of mastery.
Yeah.
So I definitely think it allows us to get a better perspective of where our kiddos are performing.
For sure. I like
All
it.
right. Well, awesome. I will let you go so I don't eat all of your planning. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem.